Hey, I'm Blair Best, and tonight on The Story, we begin in North Portland, outside one of 3 apartment buildings that the city is now turning into affordable housing. What's behind this project and why some current tenants are now being paid to make room for low-income tenants. It's our big story tonight. You see it on nearly every corner.
I stay in the bushes right there.
The need for affordable housing in Portland.
I think that it would really be nice to be able to shower when I want to shower and be able to cook a meal and have a place where I can lock my door and feel safe.
Joshua panhandles off North Broadway. Behind him, one of several apartment buildings the city of Portland is now turning into affordable housing.
No, I had no idea.
Aaron just moved into the building off North Broadway.
Just 2 days ago. I just hope it doesn't change the dynamic of the building that already exists.
Another soon-to-be affordable housing complex, Acqua Apartments off Southwater Avenue, where Constance also just moved in.
And I'm all for affordable housing.
She says she doesn't qualify for affordable housing and doesn't really know what this all means for her.
I have a Honda Element. That's a car you can sleep in.
Goose Hollow Lofts on Southwest Jefferson Street is the third property, another 61 units. Rachel lives next door.
I think it's a really good idea. I think a lot of people do need housing, and I'm actually a recipient of the voucher, and it's been a lifesaver for me.
Back in 2024, the city of Portland asked for proposals of existing apartment buildings they could buy and convert into affordable housing. Those 3 locations were selected. The city spent more than $25 million. $6 million came from the voter-approved Metro Housing Bond. Here's Gabriel Matthews, a Portland Housing Bureau spokesperson.
More affordable housing is critical. We are in the midst of a deep housing crisis. We're behind by many thousands of units of market rate housing, let alone regulated affordable housing.
Through this project, 226 new affordable housing units will be available by the end of this summer, most restricted to those making 50% or less of the area's median income. In other words, a 2-person household that brings in less than about $50,000 a year.
And we understand that folks who live in those buildings already may have been kind of taken by surprise, and we hope that the various options for them kind of give them enough flexibility.
Current tenants like Aaron and Constance are able to stay with no changes to their current lease, see if they qualify for reduced rent, or get paid to move.
If they do feel like leaving, they are being offered some relocation assistance as sort of an acknowledgement of the fact that, this changes your understanding of what the building that you moved into is like now.
At Goose Hollow Lofts, current tenants got this letter with the option to get paid up to $6,300 to voluntarily leave by November 2026 to make room for low-income tenants.
So, we are moving towards fully affordable in each of these cases, but in theory it could be years before they are literally 100% affordable.
And everybody should have a chance. Everybody should have a chance to have a home.
So a Portland Housing Bureau report shows the area needs to add nearly 50,000 affordable units by 2045. They're on track to add just over 4,000 over the next 11 years. And by affordable, they usually mean income restricted, similar to those new projects I just talked about. Here's a look at income levels the city uses to determine if people are eligible for housing assistance, like affordable units. Again, most of the new units we talked about today were for people making 50% of the area median income or less per year. For a single person, you can see that's just over $43,000. A family of 4, $62,000, and a household with 6 people would need to bring in $72,000 or less to qualify. As far as rent prices in these upcoming affordable units, here's what we know for the Goose Hollow Lofts building in Southwest. A studio would be just under $1,000 a month, just over $1,000 for a 1-bedroom, and around $1,200 for a 2-bedroom. Now, some of the current tenants that we talked with today are concerned that this plan will impact both their building and community. Here's what the city says they're going to do to try and prevent problems.
That is a very understandable concern. I should say our development partners are working with the residents. They're having meetings with the residents in a lot of cases to talk through what's going on with them, hear their concerns. There are certain changes being made to buildings that increase security and that are addressing things that actually some of these residents, from what I've heard, have been wanting for a while.
Okay, so what's going through your mind when it comes to these new affordable housing projects? Let us know. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave us a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Well, wildfire season is now in full swing. A fire burning in the gorge grew to more than 10,000 acres over the weekend. The Burdoin fire started Friday near the town of Bingen, Washington, and it's destroyed more than a dozen homes. The fire is 0% contained, and State Route 14 is closed in both directions in the area. Level 3 evacuations remain in place. You can see that large area in red there. And the evacuation center in White Salmon has moved from Columbia High School to Grace Baptist Church. Today, our crews talked with people evacuated, like Charlie Hopkins.
I evacuated very early. I have a horse that takes a very long time to get in the trailer. So as soon as I got level 1 evac, I started loading all of my animals. Yesterday, they were able to put a fire line in around most of our homes, and then they also did some back burning just in anticipation of the fire coming up the canyon.
Now, crews we talked with say today was cool and cloudy with some rain, which helped extend their fire lines. Meanwhile, the Cram fire burning in Central Oregon is on its way to becoming a mega fire. It's burned more than 95,000 acres near Madras. If it gets to 100,000, that's considered a mega fire, and it would be the first in the U.S. this year. Right now, it's about 73% contained, and the Oregon Department of Forestry says the threat to structures is significantly reduced. The fire has destroyed 2 homes and 14 outbuildings. Kyle Butler lives in the area. He says his neighbor lost everything.
Firefighters told us with Lynn's house as well is, they fought it in every front they possibly could. It came from 4 different ways, and they tried to stop it, and it just got to a point where it was coming up a draw and there was nothing they could do. It's someone's life. It's their whole home, everything, their memories, their sentimental values, everything that they've collected over, however many years, and it's all gone within a day.
Just tragic. Evacuation orders are in place for people in Crook and Jefferson counties. Wasco County lifted all evacuation orders today. Oregon saw 6 wildfires reach mega fire status last year. Okay, so let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino now. Matt, how is the weather shaping up in the region in regards to these fires?
Boy, these last couple of days have really helped, Blair. Having cooler weather, let alone rainfall, is just a boon, and we don't typically get that this time of the year. So we really should consider ourselves lucky that it did happen. Now, looking west from our camera in the Dalles on the Oregon Veterans Home towards Lyle, Bingen, Burdoin Mountain, which is a big recreation area, by the way, in the gorge. A lot of people, there's a lot of hiking trails, a lot of mountain biking trails up there. And you can see it doesn't look all that smoky. It's 80, which is not that hot for this time of the year. Humidity, 35%, which is higher than it can be. Often it's at 15% in the Dalles this time of the year, and the winds at 18 will settle down later on tonight. So those are all good signs. Hey, one more picture for you of the Burdoin fire.
Wow.
Right? Isn't that amazing? I mean, the fire itself and then that lenticular cloud over the top indicating the strong winds aloft which brought the weather system that brought the rain and the cooler temperatures. This picture from Squirrel out in the gorge, just amazing. And I'm glad it doesn't look like that anymore. So the rainfall, we picked up a bit here in the metro area, but Eastern Oregon, I mean, this was super helpful. I believe they got some on the Cram fire as well. Up to 0.6 of an inch. I saw a couple remote weather stations that had nearly an inch of rain. Big help, even though we were still getting lightning here today from new storms. They were dropping a lot of rain. Now, what about the wind? It dies off overnight tonight, which is great. It'll be cool. Humidity comes up. We call that humidity recovery, which will be good on all the fires burning in Oregon. Winds come up tomorrow, but it's not going to be the 30, 40 mile-an-hour winds in the gorge, and around the Cram fire, other parts of eastern Oregon, not nearly as strong. So the forecast still looks good for tomorrow, even though we are warming up. Now, for the Burdoin fire itself, the winds will stay up there about 18, 20 miles an hour till about 10 o'clock, and then they just drop right down to 0. So that is definitely good news there. And you can see all the clouds around. I've been searching for wildfire smoke in the satellite imagery, but it's all shrouded by cloud. Perhaps the biggest source of smoke will be this big fire down in Northern California, but this is a good sign for Oregon, meaning the fires aren't as active as they have been. So sum it up this way, Blair. Winds are easing tonight east of the Cascades, including the Burgoyne fire, and on the Cram fire specifically, the winds will really back off. A few showers still possible in the morning tomorrow, then that's over. Winds, 5 to 15, but that's not that bad. And the rest of the week, sunny and warmer, and the winds will pick up in the afternoon with the heating of the days they typically do. But all in all, the forecast going forward could be a lot worse. Hopefully the crews will continue to be able to make progress, and hopefully we keep that Cram fire out of mega fire status. Nobody wants that.
That's right. Okay, Matt, thanks so much. And before we leave you, I want you to stick with us for just a minute because we want your input after our next story, which is all about this letter that Washington Senator Maria Cantwell sent to President Trump today, calling for a bipartisan push to improve weather forecasting across the country and also improve weather readiness, especially in the wake of the deadly flooding in Texas earlier this month that killed more than 100 people, including over 24 children. Now, according to the senator's office, the Trump administration cut more than 2,000 jobs from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, and the president's proposed budget would slash more than $2 billion from the agency, whose research informs National Weather Service forecasting.
We know now that warmer temperatures are causing more precipitation, and it's causing storms to hold in a pattern, which means it's dropping an unbelievable amount of rainfall, which means it's causing unbelievable flooding. So why don't we want to be the most weather-ready nation we can? Why not know this information, likelihood of this storm effect earlier? And that is what our NOAA research lab is doing, is giving us that kind of modeling. But we have to upgrade our radar, our satellites, our buoy system, and make sure that we take that information in, analyze it, create the models. But their results already are showing you can give people hours and hours and hours of advance notice of this potential hazard instead of a few minutes.
Now, Cantwell says one of the first steps towards creating the world's best weather forecasting system is this bill right here, the Weather Reauthorization Act of 2025. It would modernize research programs and establish new programs looking to the future of forecasting and emergency readiness. It would also direct NOAA to design and deploy the next generation of radar technology. It's expected to be discussed by a House committee on Wednesday. Now, this is not some novel new idea. A version of the bill was introduced to Congress last year by Senator Cantwell and Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, but it failed to advance out of committee. In Senator Cantwell's letter to the president, she highlighted a few other steps to take along with the new bill. One, modernize weather data collection. Basically, the more weather data, the better, with things like advanced radar, satellites, and ocean buoys. Two, world-leading analytics, using supercomputers and the increased data. The senator's office says U.S. weather models are often outperformed by European models. The final two are more cutting-edge research and modernizing alert systems to make them more reliable across more of the country. Okay, so Matt, you've seen a lot of advancements in forecasting over your career. Do any of the senator's points stand out to you? And are there any forecasting holes here in the Northwest?
Yes and yes. A lot of what she said resonates with me. I'm gonna start with just the radar network that we have in the United States here. It's called NEXRAD, but these radars are actually called WSR 88D. That stands for Weather Service Radar. The 88 is for 1988, the year that this system began to be deployed. So think about that, Blair. That means our radar network is almost 40 years old.
Wow.
Okay, now there have been software upgrades and some hardware upgrades through the years, but it is getting up there. And then as far as the holes go, well, the biggest one in the lower 48 is right here in the Northwest. In fact, where you see white areas, that's where there's no radar coverage. So all of these three-letter codes, so that's the Portland radar, the Pendleton radar, the Medford radar, the radar on the Washington coast, which is relatively new and took an act of Congress to get. And there wasn't one there until about 2011. But look, these white areas in Central Oregon, zero radar coverage. The Central Coast, from about Newport all the way down to nearly Brookings, no radar coverage. Hey, think about that.
That's concerning, is it not?
It's super concerning, and we have to really, go through a lot of hoops to make up for that, and sometimes we just don't see things that are happening. Let me give you a real-world example as to why this is so important. Before that Washington Coast radar went in, we wouldn't have had any radar coverage on the North Oregon coast when the Portland radar was down. And it was in 2016 when that tornado hit Manzanita. That tornado was warned for specifically because we had that Washington coast radar. Without that, we would have had zero warning on that. So this has real world implications. Now, it also helps to initiate or get the computer models that we use to forecast weather out in time for several days. It helps to initiate or get those started. So the more and the better radar data we have, the better our forecasts are in the near term, especially, but also in the long term. So it's very, very important. There have been efforts to try to get an Oregon coastal radar. It's hard to do. There's not a lot of them out there. It costs, a couple $1 million, but it's super important. And I was at a weather conference just a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago, and the new generation of radars have already been designed. It's going to be a question of paying for that. So I hope that bipartisan support is able to increase in the weeks and months ahead to get this going, because everything she said is super important. And with the recent examples like Kerrville, Texas, I mean, come on, the warning systems need to be upgraded in places like that. At least get sirens. That's not expensive.
Yeah. All right, Matt, thanks for your insight.
You bet.
Well, earlier on the show, we talked a lot about fire, but after the break, we're talking ice, the frozen kind. A team of researchers from the Northwest are working on top of the second largest ice sheet in the world. What they hope to learn when the story returns. Well, researchers from Western Washington University are taking on the Arctic on the front lines of climate change. They're taking a close look at the Greenland Ice Sheet. Brady Wakayama with our Environment Northwest team spoke with the scientist leading the team about what they hope to discover.
I think this work is important due to the sheer volume of the Greenland ice sheet and how it really does have a global impact.
Western Washington University Associate Professor of Environmental Science, Alia Khan, is on top of the world.
The Greenland ice sheet is one of the largest contributors to global sea level rise.
For the past week, she and her team of researchers from Western have been literally scratching the surface of the Greenland ice sheet. It's about 3 times the size of Texas, making it the second largest ice sheet in the world behind Antarctica.
We are trying to better understand how the darkening of the albedo across this region of the dark zone of the Greenland ice sheet, how that is contributing to increased sea level rise.
Khan says the dark zones of this ice sheet stem from wildfires over the years, raging primarily from Canada. She says the fires send smoke and black carbon pollution high into the atmosphere. Winds then carry that pollution thousands of miles, some of it landing on the icy expanse of Greenland.
I hypothesize that by the end of the century, we'll see a pretty large increase in the dark zones across the Greenland ice sheet.
So why is that concerning? Khan says when dark particles settle on the ice, they cause it to absorb more heat from the sun, melting much faster than usual and contributing to the rising sea levels worldwide.
Global sea level rise has implications for infrastructure, economies, development, safety.
According to the National Snow and Ice Data Center, if the entire Greenland ice sheet melted, the sea level would rise about 24 feet. Khan and her team are wrapping up their exploration Sunday, planning on evaluating their findings that will help improve projections for future sea levels.
As soon as we have results to share, I would love to reconnect and let you know what we have found here.
For Environment Northwest, I'm Brady Wakayama.
Well, coming up next on the story, some 50 years after receiving a kidney transplant in the Northwest, a Washington woman looks back on her procedure, one that's become way more common in the years since her surgery in 1975. The lifelong bond she shares with her donor. That's when the story returns. Well, one of the first kidney transplant programs in the Northwest got its start at the University of Washington in the late 60s. And a few years later, a Bellingham woman underwent the procedure. And now, half a century later, that woman is among the world's longest surviving kidney transplant patients. Christine Pei tells us more.
In 1975, Vicky Hagen was 24 years old and newly married, her whole life ahead of her.
I had just graduated from college and we were looking to start a family. I wasn't feeling really good, but my mom thought I was just bored.
Turned out it was something far more serious than that. A rare kidney condition that required something risky and novel at the time, a kidney transplant. Doctors said Vicky had latent nephritis as a child that led to kidney failure as an adult. But what really got to Vicky was the possibility of not having children because of her condition.
My only shot was to have a transplant, have it go well.
She and her family drove to the University of Washington Hospital in Seattle, now the UW Medical Center, where she met Dr. Thomas Marchioro, who in 1968 founded the Pacific Northwest's first kidney transplant program at UW Medicine. After testing, the doctor said Vicky's older sister Donna stood out as a match, and it was settled.
I said, okay, let's do this. And he goes, you know, you're not going to Seattle to get a new pair of shoes. But, you know, my thought was, hey, my whole life is on hold until this is taken care of.
Vicky spent 10 weeks at the hospital after the transplant. Today, such an operation would require about 2 weeks recovery.
It's a huge difference. So,
Dr. Nikolai Leka currently leads the kidney transplant program at the UW Medical Center. He recalls the groundbreaking work from his predecessor, Dr. Marchioro, decades earlier.
He was the driving force of establishing the kidney transplant program here, one of the first few programs in the United States.
Over the years, kidney transplants advanced to become a more routine surgery, with about 27,000 of them done in the U.S. in 2024.
What has changed significantly is the medications, which have gotten much better. They're not perfect, but definitely much better.
Vicky Hagen is among the world's longest surviving kidney transplant patients. A newspaper article covered her recovery 50 years prior, showing her feeling great.
I remember it tremendously because he actually had me run. I don't run.
And she did get pregnant, becoming a mother of 2 and living proof that kidney transplant patients can live a normal, healthy life.
And I said, see, you know, look at, you know, there is that. You can do this.
But life after wasn't exactly a smooth road. Vicky is also a breast cancer survivor and struggled with weight gain, which she successfully lost and led to a career as a health coach.
I was given this gift of life, so I need to fight for it, right?
And she says she's eternally grateful for her older sister, who gave her so much more than a kidney.
She gave me life, and then she gave my 2 children life, and then she gave my 3 grandchildren life, and on it goes.
Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Straight Talk is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. If you ever miss an episode of The Story at 6:30, we re-air it at 8:30 and 10:30 on our TV app, KGW+. You can also catch us the next day at 11:30 a.m. Download the free app now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. In the meantime, have a great Monday night. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night at 6:30.